So my name's Tammy and this is Anne Louise and we're from Create New South Wales and we're part of the Arts Investment and Development team. On behalf of Create New South Wales and Accessible Arts, I'd like to pay our respects to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the land where we're having this meeting today. And I'd also like to pay our respects to the Aboriginal elders, past, present and future, and also to any Aboriginal people in the room here today, and also the non-Aboriginal people here today. So welcome. And thanks for coming to our Arts and Cultural Funding Program information session. As Liz mentioned, the bathrooms are outside, just there's a door on your right. And emergency exit, I think, is just pretty much the same way we came in. We'd also ask you to please turn off your mobile phones, just as a courtesy to everybody else. A big thank you to Accessible Arts for letting us hold the Arts and Cultural Funding information session here today with you. So thank you, Liz and Carey. So today, at today's session, we're going to provide you with information about Create New South Wales funding reform and the changes that were made, the types of funding that's available coming up shortly, next month, how to apply and when to apply, funding amounts available, information about the new Artform assessment boards, and followed by a Q&A session. So we'd like to get through the presentation as quick as we can to give you that information, and we'd like you to hold off your questions just until the end. And if you've missed out on receiving any of the guideline copies, they are available on our website. You can download a copy from there. We also have a wonderful Auslan interpreter. We have two coming here today. And that's for people who need that assistance with interpreting what we're saying today.
Okay, so maybe just to kick off with is to sort of look at actually what is the actual reform and why is there reform. Over the last couple of years, Create New South Wales has been consulting with the sector through surveys, focus groups, through the Arts Summit, through conversations with the sector, and have taken on board this need for change and have acted upon it. We've also talked to other states and international organisations to understand and incorporate the developments in best practice in arts funding programs, and we've also actioned that feedback and research. So what has changed? Firstly, we're hoping we've provided a simpler application process. What used to be 14 individual project rounds has now been shrunk down into 3 funding categories. You have more opportunity to apply. There are 2 opportunities to apply in the financial year. We've removed funding limits. We've reduced assessment criteria. Across all the other categories in the past, we had up to 26 criteria at any given time. They've now been reduced to 3 that are consistent across all 3 categories, and that's the 3 criteria are merit, impact and viability. We're committing to clear notification dates of whether you have been successful or not. And we have Artform assessment boards, but we will talk in more detail about all those things as we go along.
Also, I just want to quickly mention that we do have this session being recorded today, and those are for the people that aren't able to attend any of these sessions that we're doing statewide. So we just are having us 3 here, so hopefully we might have a couple of the back of the heads in there, but it's basically this information here and us standing here, so just to let you know. Okay, so these are the funding categories that will be opening on the 5th of August. You have project funding, you have creative Koori projects funding, and you have annual organisation funding. If you're also wondering about multi-year funding, we will have those guidelines available end of August, early September. So if you're a multi-year funding organisation, expect those to come out then. Also, if you're inquiring about quick response, those guidelines should be out around the same time, late August, early September, and that's for fellowships and for quick response grants. Okay?
So we'll start by talking about project funding. Project funding supports excellence, innovation and creativity within the New South Wales arts and cultural sector. The difference is that we've removed the definition of what a project is or can be, and we're giving you the flexibility to define what your project is. So if we look at this screen, it can be any number of things. These are just prompts of what a project can be. So it's not a directive. we're sort of opening it up for you to decide what your project is and how you want to define it. In this sort of grouping, you may see some projects that are, have had their own funding category in the past, say like touring or capital. They're now included in project funding. The only specificity around a project is that it has to be a clearly defined arts and cultural activity. The only thing it can't be then, though, is filmmaking, screen production, mainstream animation or film festivals. The screen unit at Create New South Wales has a whole suite of funding for those kinds of projects. Who can apply? We've also opened up who can apply. The project round is open to Australian citizens or permanent residents or organisations or groups based in Australia. Having said that, all project applications have to benefit New South Wales by either employing New South Wales artists or arts and cultural workers and or providing arts and cultural experiences to the people of New South Wales. The other thing that's changed about projects, if you are currently in receipt of multi-year funding or annual program funding, you can apply for projects. The organisations that can't apply, major performing arts, state significant organisations, cultural institutions and key festivals. And of course you can't apply for projects if it's, your project's already started or taken place.
So Creative Koori Projects funding. It's a bit different from the last two previous years that we've had it. One of the major questions that we received from the sector was that why is this Creative Koori not for Aboriginal applicants only? And I can tell you now that we have arrived. So Creative Koori project funding is specifically for Aboriginal applicants only. And what we're wanting to do is, the principle is about Aboriginal self-determination, and it's also about supporting Aboriginal artists and Aboriginal organisations and Aboriginal communities to be at the centre of funded excellence for their arts and culture activities that they want to share within New South Wales. Again, like Anne-Louise mentioned, it can be any of these things: presenting, professional development, marketing, new works, productions, touring, promotions, recording, publishing. So it's really up to you what you decide to, the vision is yours to decide what project you want to, you know, what you want to do. But you do have to be an Aboriginal applicant or an Aboriginal organisation or an Aboriginal group, and you must have a strong affiliation with New South Wales country. Your project must employ New South Wales Aboriginal artists and arts and cultural workers, and they also must provide arts and cultural experiences to New South Wales Aboriginal communities. You are ineligible to apply if you are not an Aboriginal individual, organisation or group, if you are a Create New South Wales designated major performing arts company or a state significant organisation, a state cultural institution or a key festival, and if your project has already commenced or already taken place. And again, it's not for ineligible in regards to screen and filming. You'll have to see the Screen New South Wales team and have a chat about your project there. However, I do want to say to everybody in the room that is non-Aboriginal, please, if you're still considering or you're still wanting to work with the Aboriginal community, you're passionate about that, please apply through the project funding round.
The third category is annual organisation funding. This is to support arts and cultural organisations, including service organisations, to deliver an annual program of clearly articulated arts and cultural activity. Your core program must benefit New South Wales by either employing New South Wales artists and arts and cultural workers and or providing arts and cultural experiences to the people of New South Wales. To apply, it's slightly different to projects. It's not as open. You can only apply if you're an organisation or group based in New South Wales. And there are changes to this as well. In the past, for annual, you had to have received, I think, consecutive years of project funding. That barrier is now gone. You don't need to have received funding before to apply for annual organisation funding.
So, $61 million has been allocated to deliver the arts and cultural funding program for this financial year. We did receive feedback in regards to the previous financial year in regards to the various categories of funding, and we heard that the funding was too restrictive. So we've come up with these three levels of funding. So you can apply for, the first tier is you can apply for less than $20,000. The second tier is $20,000 up to $140,000. The third tier is $140,000 above. And you can see, if people who can't see at the back, we do expect you to make a independent financial contribution, and a percentage will go along with each of those funding tiers. But please note, and I'm sure you are well aware of this, Create New South Wales does not fund 100% of any projects. So we are expecting you to make those contributions. And that can come through other government grants, philanthropic sponsorships, donations, fundraising, in-kind support. That can be through volunteer labour, donated materials, equipment and products, and even ticket sales can come in through your percentage of independent financial contribution as well.
The other change are the Artform assessment boards, and when you make your application, you'll be asked to choose which Artform assessment board you would like to assess your application. If you're applying for Creative Koori projects, the Aboriginal Arts and Cultural Board will assess all those applications, so you don't have to choose. But if you're applying through annual or project, you will have to choose which board assesses your application. The purpose of the Artform assessment boards is to assess all the applications and then to provide the recommendations to the Minister. They'll be made up of up to 10 representatives from leading New South Wales arts and cultural organisations, independent organisations and individual artists. The whole idea is to have a representation of the ecology of the arts and cultural sector across the state. They will serve for an initial 2 to 3 years to ensure consistency across decision making. That might be staggered as well, staggered sort of start and finish times.
So how will my application be assessed? There are 3 stages. So the first stage is the project merit and the project impact. So for project merit, the Artform Assessment Board may consider your artistic rationale and the vision of your project, or the articulation of creative process or project delivery, or the quality and reputation of your previous works. For the project impact, you will need to choose out of one of the 4 following impacts, and your primary outcome will be about one of those impacts. So the first one is audience impact, cultural impact, operational impact, and social impact. So you need to articulate your writing and your project to one of those impacts. For more information, you can find that in the guidelines as well.
And just to reiterate, stage 1, the Artform assessment boards will only get the part of the form which you've completed for merit and impact. That's all they're going to see. The section which is viability, which is all about your budget, your capacity to deliver the project or the program, your governance arrangements, that sits separately and will be looked at differently. It won't be used to assess your project or program in the first instance. So the board will get just that information, your merit and your impact, and they will make a sort of selection or a shortlist through that process, and then they will be given the viability section of your application. With regards to the viability section, depending on how much money you're asking for, like if you're only asking for $20,000 or less, you really only have to provide a very simple budget and project plan. Once you start applying for more than $20,000, what you need to supply in the application becomes more onerous, if you like. So you need to provide more evidence of your capacity, any shared, any partnerships, any other income coming in, your risk management, your organisation's capacity, and a track record. So it just becomes a little bit more information that you have to provide the more money you're asking for. In stage 3, the boards come together to sort of look at all their recommendations, and this is at this point there may be some weighting. Up to this point now there has been no weighting of those criteria of merit, impact or viability. They're not weighted at all, they're all equal. But once we get to the stage 3 assessment, there may be some prioritising or weighting coming in through the boards. This will help them to determine final recommendations. They may, with regards to weighting, they may take into account the assessment criteria, demographics and the distribution range and scale of all recommended applicants. They may include prioritising New South Wales applicants as well as programs, individuals and outcomes that address people living and or working in regional New South Wales, people living and or working in Western Sydney, Aboriginal people, culturally and linguistically diverse, people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, people with disability and young people. This kind of prioritisation is really there just to ensure equity across the state and the best outcomes for New South Wales government investment. After stage 3, those final recommendations go to the Minister for his consideration and approval.
Okay, so now to the rounds. There are 2 rounds per year. The first one, round 1, opens on the 5th of August and closes on the 2nd of September. And that's for projects starting after after January.
Yes,
Yeah,
I can actually go to that later.
Yes. Yeah. And so round 2 opens in February next year, closes on the 2nd of March. Please note that you can only apply for one application per round. So for example, if you're an organisation and you're applying for annual funding, organisation funding, you apply in round 1. If you're successful, great, you might want to apply in round 2 for project funding.
How do I apply? Is there anyone here who hasn't put an application in before to Create New South Wales? Okay, well then as of Monday, the application forms will be available on our website. You'll go to our funding page, which we will show you in a tick, and there should be there'll be a place that says how to apply or apply here. There'll be a button you press. You'll have to set up a Smarty Grants account just to get yourself into the form and to start an application. Of course, if you require this information in another format, then please contact us and we can provide that. Okay, so how will I know if my application is successful? Another big bit of feedback is often, it takes ages for you to know whether you've been successful or not with an application. So we're committing to a date as to when you'll be notified of the outcome of your application. That notification will be under embargo, which means that you can't go and publicise it until that embargo is lifted, but at least you know when you can proceed with your planning. These are the following dates when you'll find out if your application has been successful or not. For round 1, if you're putting in a performing arts touring project application, you'll be notified on the 31st of October. This is the first time this will happen and the only time it will happen, just to align touring projects with Playwriting Australia. All other projects will be notified on the 6th of December, and you can start your project from the 1st of February. In round 1, if you're applying for annual organisation funding, you'll be notified as well on the 6th of December, but you can start your project from the 1st of January that year. In round 2, all projects, including performing arts touring, will be notified on the 19th of June, and you can deliver your projects after the 1st of August. For programs, you can start from the 1st of July. So you can sort of see with the annual program, we're sort of taking into account if you're working from a calendar year or a financial year. The other thing to sort of note about annual projects is you might want to just put in an application for 6 months of your annual program. And you could do that for January to June next year to get yourself to align to a financial year if you need to, if that's how you work. The other thing to note is with projects, you have a 2-year window to complete your project. And with annual, of course, you have a year to complete your project.
Okay, so if you haven't already, please subscribe to our e-news. You can do that by visiting our website. That's the quickest way that you'll get updates on any funding round that will become available. We also are having lab sessions statewide. So a lab session will help you put your best application forward. So pretty much it's a 20-minute one-on-one session with one of our staff at any of those lab sessions. You can find that online as well. Information that we'll have a slide coming up shortly with that. And we do encourage artists with disability, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artists and young people. We really encourage you to attend these lab sessions with us. And we look forward to hearing about your projects.
And if you've got all your social media handles here as well, that's another great way, just not just through the e-news, but we're always sort of posting information about what's happening with regards to funding through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn. So follow us there as well. Sorry, this is a slightly blurry slide, but this is what Tammy was talking about before, that if you go to the funding and support tab here, those of you who haven't applied before, that if you click on that, it will take you to the funding page, which is where you'll find the button to sort of apply. But here also you'll find links to where we're running other sort of lab sessions or presentations over the next month, as well as where you can find is a quiz that if you're still a little bit confused about what you can apply for, there's an interactive quiz that you can do that sort of helps take you to what you're eligible for. There'll also be, there's a whole sort of section on frequently asked questions. If you have any questions, you can kind of go there first. If you rather do that than ring us, but please also ring us or send us an email. And then next week we'll also have a how to apply guide, which is sort of a written guide online as well. Yeah.
And we'll hopefully have this video up as well. Yes. So here's our contact details. Our team number, if you don't have it, it's 8289-6520. You'll get to speak to one of our staff members. And the email address is arts.funding@create.nsw.gov.au. That information should be available in the guidelines. So thank you very much for your time today.